Heroes, we are back with a vengeance. And the whole point of Hometown Heroes is to interview and get to know business owners and families and individuals who are out there not just to make money, but it's to make the world a better place. And I have a phenomenal guest today. He is part of a legacy that is a staple and actually is in my freezer now because tomorrow I'm making the hot dish. I'm from Minnesota, so we say hot dish. Leslie Grigg, and his family is the founder of the Tater Tot. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
So before we get into the whole Tater Tot legacy, I want to get to know you as a person, and because I know you don't live off of just that legacy and that air. You
I
are doing so much more for the community and different groups, including what's near and dear to my heart, the neurodiverse and autism community. So where is that passion for what you've got to keep going and doing all these different events?
well, I'm 74 years old. I worked for 45 years as a financial advisor with Merrill Lynch, and the Tater Tot became our family legacy in 1965. I was 13 years old. My father was a controller for Ore-Ida Foods. My mother and I were given the opportunity to be the vending machine caretakers at the cafeteria. Our house was the food storage depot. And so we would go out around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We'd fill the vending machines and we'd drive home. And my dad paid me 10 cents a week.
But in that time period, 10 cents a week was actually a lot for a kid.
Yeah, it was. And so, anyway, 1965, Heinz Ketchup acquired Ore-Ida Foods. So, from 65 forward, like I said, I was 13 years old. Um, I knew my uncle Nephi very well. He was uh, he was a major influence in my life, and we he was I mean I've known him when I was in grade school, and we had regular annual meetings where he was involved, and I would just sit back and idolize the guy until I was a young married. And so he had a big impact on me as to what type of person I wanted to be, and that's why I became a stockbroker. That's a little bit my background. Then the next 35 or 40 years, was I was looking around for community service. Uh, I joined an organization called the National Exchange Club in 1984.
Okay.
National, the National Exchange Club is America's oldest service club, and they have been promoting child abuse prevention for all that time. And so, because of my passion for child abuse prevention, I want to merge my passion from my Tater Tot legacy with child abuse prevention.
No, and I love that. In the Exchange Club, I'm actually a member of it. I'm part of the press for our Medford Exchange. I do the social media and all that. But I love the fact that they're so open minded about child abuse prevention that we're actually expanding it into teaching about the autism world and understanding that just because a child is this way, he's doesn't mean it's abuse. It could be just because they're neurodiverse and looking at separate warning signs. But
Yep.
you know, that organization is so phenomenal in communities. They keep activities going and building and trying to put a community together, and I love that you're involved in that. Are you going to the national convention coming up?
I plan on it. I will probably be a vendor presenter there, telling my story.
I love that. um I don't know if I'll make it to the national, but I'm making it to our district one.
Mhm.
That's only because it's 5 miles away. So what got you into the passion of child abuse? A lot of organizations kind of talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk, and you do both.
Well, yeah, like I say, I joined the Exchange Club. I spent 40 years in our community. Um, we had at one time we had a National Exchange Club Cap Center in Idaho Falls, where I was living at the time. That organization unfortunately ended up going under around 2020, 2004. But that said, that CAP Center was a part of our town, and I was always involved with fundraising. I was involved with the educational aspect and training that was given as part of our ownership of that Child Abuse Prevention Center. I've been I've had courses in all of the different aspects of parenting education, from the ACEs programs to um, what was all of a sudden my mind went blank on me. There's an organization, I think it was North Carolina, that has built a foundation, and they've been around for 40 years, and they have a very phenomenal program. Um, and so I've been a fundraiser. I've been I've been on the board of our local. Uh, it's called the Domestic Violence Sexual Assault Center. I've served on the board of those
Mhm.
people for a few years. So I've been involved in every aspect except running a clinic.
Any plans to start that one?
Well, no, I've been giving this some serious thought over about a 2-year period, and I think the path that I'm more interested in is creating creating a pathway for finding out, with existing programs, what can we do to improve and be better.
That and create a
And
directory or a way for all the different programs to be able to connect with each other. This is working. This is the newest information. This is, which doesn't exist today, or it
and
does, but
and
it's so separated.
and I mean, along that same pathway is like there's two in the last roughly in the last 2 months or 3 months, I've identified two components of of the broad parenting thing. One exists in the existing program, one doesn't. As for example, what you do with autism. Autism, as far as I know, doesn't exist in the parenting modules,
No,
and I think that needs to change.
and that's what I'm working on, is creating those modules so that, to understand what it is. There are no classes. There's not a lot of information. It's what drugs can you put your kids on? What therapies can you shove your kids in? And at the same time, none of them teach the parent of how to understand them.
Right.
And the treatments that are acceptable, you go on Facebook. I had to stop and leave a lot of the groups because I'd cry. Because, like, you look up an autistic bed, it's a cage that you lock them in at night so they can't get out with a mattress on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And that's scary to me. That's sad to me because I've got two special needs kids. I've got two autistic kids. And
And unfortunately, the medical community uh, somewhat perpetuates the problem.
it's more government than medical. Like, if
Okay.
you're on Social Security disability for your kid, you need to do these therapies. That's why my kids aren't on it. You get old school doctors, yes, but a lot of the newer ones, like the ones through John Hopkins or Mayo, are phenomenal with the new cutting edge research, especially in Rochester, Minnesota here. And, like, for instance, my son had problems with his stomach. And those doctors are trained not just in medicine, but then holistic practices at the same time. And so the first step was a medicine to help relieve the stomach muscles. Because he figured, so in your brain's in fight or flight. You've got this huge anxiety, which is the big cause of with autism. So then your stomach's wound up, so you're not going to be able to go because all those muscles are tight. So if you give him a muscle relaxer, that'll loosen the muscles, help everything flow, and it does.
Mm-hmm.
And when he got really backed up, the first thought was, let's give him a colon cleanse from inside out, top to bottom. And it wasn't about, this is the drugs to put him on. It was one simple drug. Let's take the old one away that didn't work and up the dosage of the other one.
Yeah.
It's about
And
frequency music and things like
yet
that.
there's probably half a dozen ways to do that naturally, and then you don't have the drug problem.
Well, the problem is that naturally, like with my kid, he won't take any medicines. Like he won't even take an aspirin. If he's got a headache, it's ice packs, icy hot, or like Aspercreme roll on that he'll put on his forehead.
Well, I'm not talking about medicine. I'm talking about natural things,
There is,
spoons,
there is.
spoons, and those types of stuff. You know.
The problem is he don't eat that kind of stuff. So it's that happy medium. It's when he I can get him to eat something healthy, and it's so funny because once we help with that stomach, he eats liver now. He calls
Okay.
it steak. I'm like, great, more power to you, because I eat it. I like it.
But then the other area that I was going to mention is listening.
Hmm.
I know they teach listening, but I'm still trying to get uh, a broad perspective of multiple programs just to see. I suspect just because I know and understand how things work in terms of systems and people, one program is going to have an eighth of the program. The other program is going to have maybe a quarter of the program. But I don't think there's any program out there that has it where it should be one third to one half of the deal.
Right. And two, listening when it's not communicating. Listening
Yes.
to nonverbal movements, facial features,
And
things like that.
getting rid of the whole concept of body language. I think that's stupid.
Well,
I mean, not stupid. It's overused. It's over dramatized. It puts people in boxes that aren't necessarily accurate.
yes. And that's where you, like, especially in autism, you have to know your kid and understanding if he's starting to fidget or stem, there's something going on. Those are your warning signs. All right. There we go. Sorry. My internet went down for a minute there, so I had to reset everything.
Okay.
Sorry about that. We had a bad windstorm, so T-Mobile's fixing the internet, our tower. We had the blizzards the other weekend. Missed us, but we had the wind to go with it. No, there's something to body language, but we get so focused on watching that we're not listening.
That's my point. Yeah, it's overplayed. It becomes, instead of being a tool, the tool becomes the object of purpose. Like if we have a hammer and that's our tool, we end up trying to make the hammer be the end all tool instead of just the tool for what it's used to be. And they do that. We do that. That's
Exactly.
human mind. Human mind does that. It takes a good tool, and everybody says, well, hammers are good, so everybody ought to have a hammer. and we leave out the saw in the process.
Exactly. Or we use a hammer instead of a drill when we should be using the drill and screws instead of a hammer.
Yeah. But that's just the way the human
Yeah.
mind works. And so as people, we keep repeating that process. The pieces of the puzzle change every time, but the process is part of our nature, and it happens in every aspect of society.
It's kind of like text messaging. You read into text because, like me, I like to use full words and sentences. And people think I'm mad. I'm like, because I capitalize a letter. I'm like, God, isn't that how you write? Being ex-military, I hate acronyms because it just confuses me. I don't care to learn how to talk in text. And so, they read into it. The same with nonverbal communication. It's they read into things because they don't understand what it means because they saw a video on it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like when you say yes, dear, you get yelled at. Same concept. And that's it. We need parents to, one, disconnect from electronics and just pay attention to their kids.
I mean, I remember when body language was beginning, and I remember sitting in a conversation as a financial advisor with somebody, and I was a faithful church attender, and in church, it was a normal thing in church for us to sit and fold our arms.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm sitting there folding my arms, and the person I'm talking to says, "You're not listening to me. You're folding your arms. Has nothing to do with this whole situation."
Or you're mad because your arms are folded. It's like, no, it's my go-to. Or like in the military, that was the hardest thing, was not talking with your hands. So I'd always loop them into my pockets, my side pockets there. I had to learn not to use my hands.
So he was
And
programmed to think that arm folding was a message, and it wasn't. I was just doing what I normally do when I'm in a conversation with somebody.
see, and I would have had the smart comment, would you rather I've been sitting here doing this and tapping the desk or something, or kicking my feet? I'm keeping myself still.
And so we get programmed by society the way society wants us to think. And it's true sometimes, but it's not true in every circumstance that we find ourselves.
No, and that's it. And that's the sad part about it. This is supposed to mean you're closed off and, don't want communication. It's like, no, it's just my go-to move because
Oop.
swear to God, my stuff's possessed today. I'm watching my screen just start flipping. I'm like, what the heck? What's going on now? Because I'm on my tablet because it has its own network.
What other questions do you have?
So you follow this legacy. You're working on making the world a better place. You're getting into the whole. You've been in the world of abuse and things like that. Let's get to the your legacy, the tater tot. How did that actually come about? There's so many rumors about accident, over extra French fry pieces, the waste of, how did it actually become a tater tot?
So Golden and Nephi, they were born. My uncle Nephi was born in 1918, I think, around there. He was 10 years. My grandfather was born in 2004. He was about 10 years. So 2024, 25. So he and his brother Golden, they were 18 months apart in a family of 13 kids. So they were best buddies, from when they could walk.
Wait. 18 kids.
13 kids.
13 kids. That's still a lot.
They were in the
That's a baker's dozen.
They were the two middle kids, 18 months apart.
Wow. She really had her hands full.
And so when they got to be teenagers, they were 18, 19 years old. Between the time they were 18 and 19 and over the next 10 years, they built the largest frozen corn distributorship in North America. They were distributing frozen corn by truck from Ontario, Oregon, all the way into Ontario, into Seattle, over into the Dakotas, and down into Northern California. So they had this frozen corn distributorship, and they wanted a business that was going to give them a 12-month income instead of a 3-month income. So they decided that they would get into the French fry business, and that's a story in itself. But there was an old food processing plant that was in bankruptcy in Ontario, Oregon, and they decided to go ahead and see if they could raise the money they needed to buy that plant so they could start manufacturing French fries. J.R. Simplot Corporation, J.R. Simplot actually, the French fry was invented in Europe circa 1800.
Mm-hmm.
And so the frozen French fry was actually invented by J.R. Simplot around 1945. And so here they were, 30 miles from his business, and they decided this is something we want to get into. So they ended up actually they were told they would need $250,000 to buy this plant. They ended up needing $500,000. So if you can imagine two 30-something guys running around the community asking everybody for money and raising $500,000 in 1951.
Holy, that's like $1 billion in today's standard. Really, if you think about it.
Yeah. And so they accomplished that. They got the plant started. They started manufacturing French fries. And for the first several months, as the French fry waste went down the conveyor belt, it was put in a bin to feed cattle. And I don't know how many people I've talked to that were in the potato business back in that area, but everybody, I've probably talked to half a dozen different businesses that were in the potato manufacturing business in the circa 1952. They were all satisfied to let the potato go to the cattle bin.
Yeah.
But my Uncle Nephi, as creative and as inventive as he is or was, he said that we got to change that. That's just dumb. And so he started creating recipes to take the potato shavings and water and flour and some seasonings. They worked with it till they got something that tasted good. They wanted to taste like potatoes, but not be a potato.
Right.
And so
anyway, kind of like the seasoned fries of today.
Yeah. But anyway, they found the recipe, and then somebody said, well, we have to form this. We can't just put it in a bag and throw it on the shelf. And so my other uncle, who is a structural engineer by profession, he came up with the idea, well, let's take this piece of plywood. So they took an 18-inch piece of plywood, 18 by 8 inches, 1-inch plywood, they drilled about 30 3/4 inch holes and about 12 1-inch holes, and they experimented for some time with the 1 inch and the 3-inch sizes. They decided that the 3/4 inch size was the size that was the best. And so they created what we now know as the Holy Board. And the Holy Board is the untold story of tater tots. Nobody knows about it because a decision was made in 1954 when they got tater tots into full production. Decision was made, let's put the board on the wall of the plant. And that's now its home 70 years later. And only people, a few thousand people in the world know its existence.
And the only ones that work there. And if they even know it exists, doesn't mean they know what it's for.
And so anyway, that's one of the reasons why we're doing what we're doing. Is our job is to tell the untold story of tater tots, and that's the Holy
And
Board.
that is really cool. And you have a documentary you're working on about that too, right?
Yes.
And it's going to help explain this. Can't wait till it comes out. I want to watch it. Just to see the 18 kids and what that life was like. My grandma had 7, and that was a lot. I couldn't imagine having that many. I have 2, and that's a lot.
Circa 1964, they were struggling with distribution problems from southern Idaho, and so they made a decision to go to Greenville, Wisconsin. To Greenville,
Okay.
Wisconsin? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they built an Ore-Ida plant in Greenville, Wisconsin, circa 1964. A lot of the family members migrated there to run the plant. And one of the big mistakes that was making is they assumed that they could grow Idaho russet potatoes in Greenville, Michigan. And they didn't test that out until it was too late to understand that it doesn't happen. You can't grow Idaho russet potatoes in Greenville, Michigan.
No. We get little russets here.
Where is it? Wisconsin, Greenville.
I think it's Wisconsin.
I'm drawing a blank.
Let's see. Greenville.
I think it's Wisconsin.
It is Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
Yeah,
so that plant folded. I don't know what year it folded, but they started withdrawing production and things about 1968. And so all of these families that moved there, they ended up starting new businesses in that area rather than moving. They started new businesses. So we still have cousins in Greenville, Michigan, and in those parts up there.
Boy, if you ever go there to visit, you drive right by me. It's only an hour away from me. Yeah, the potatoes don't grow the greatest in mass quantities.
So we have to tell the story of the national launch of tater tots.
Yeah, because then I want to. How did it go from there to Heinz?
So they were. So the tater tot was in full production circa 1954. At the end of, I think it was 1954, somewhere in that time frame, they learned about a new hotel opening in Miami, Florida called the Fontainebleau. And my memory, I don't remember if it was 1954 or 1955, one of those 2 years, was the grand opening of the Fontainebleau restaurant in Miami, Florida. And as part of the grand opening, somewhere within that short time of the grand opening, they were hosting a national food conference, and I've heard different versions of what kind of food conference it was. And so they decided that they would pack up 15 pounds of tater tots, make their way to Miami. And they got there and unannounced, no appointments. They knocked on the back door of the restaurant and bribed the cook, gave the cook $100 bill if he would cook these tater tots and put a few on the plate of every table.
I love it.
And so that did, and the rest is history.
That's kind of like how potato chip came into play. Someone guy complained to the chef about potatoes and how he didn't like the potato, and the chef thought he was going to be smart and cut it really thin and deep or fried it, and the guy loved it, and he'd come back. Revenge gone wrong. But I love that because it's the perseverance and just, the outside the box thinking. And with the outside the box is like phenomenal way to get what you want accomplished.
Yes.
That and, the whole manifest destiny and following your mission.
Yep. So in 1965, well, but 1964, between 1961 and 1964, tater tots became a hit, and Ore-Ida's sales doubled almost every year for 3 years. And Heinz Corporation was interested in diversifying away from their particular portfolio of companies, and so they made a proposal and acquired Ore-Ida Foods for $30 million.
Wow. And back then that was like millions of dollars
Yes.
now.
Yes.
That's what people got to remember and realize is 30 million is like 100 million today's money.
So anyway, from 65 forward, that became our family legacy, and I entered the workforce in 1978.
And you decided to go into stocks.
And I became a stockbroker. That was I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I really didn't know how to do that. And so I found what I thought was probably the best choice. I didn't need any capital. I didn't need to build a back office. I just needed to sign a W-4 and go to work and start building relationships with people and build a business.
All right. I'm shutting my camera off and see if that helps.
Okay.
Because my Wi-Fi keeps kicking out. I'm just thankful my son's asleep so that he doesn't hear the noise or the does.
Barry Stanley.
I guess camera's not working.
My internet is completely down.
Okay.
Can we reschedule sometime other time this week?
Yes.
So that way we're not chopping it together.
Yep. That's fine. Let me just sort of get an idea. What times would be best for you? I'm probably more flexible in terms of my time.
The only time I am busy is noon this week and tomorrow.
Um,
Only till until about 2. Otherwise, I am open.
Let me just pull my calendar up. So let's see, I've got, trying to see, got Tuesday day is pretty wide open. Wednesday mornings would be best.
Let's do a Wednesday morning.
Okay. Um, 10ish.
I have a networking meeting. I'm actually going to send you an invite to if you're ever up or outside the hall.
Um, I could probably do it at 7.
Because I was thinking, could I do a networking first while in New Zealand at 7 o'clock on Wednesday mornings? But you will absolutely love the guys in there.
Okay, that works.
And then after that, we'll do the interview.
Okay.
These guys are part of the reason I am where I am today. When I first started my business, I couldn't talk. And we joke about it a lot. I struggled just with everything. And they helped me guide me and help me, do the front of a show.
So Wednesday morning at 7.
I will send you the invite for that group meeting.
Okay.
We get to meet a whole bunch of people.
Okay.
Have you met Brian McNeil yet? He's on Ryan Moore on Facebook.
Who's that?
Brian McNeil, he's got like 8 books out.
I haven't met him yet.
Okay, you'll meet him on Wednesday then.
Okay.
He's fun.
Okay. Sounds like a plan.
Alrighty, sounds good.
Okay. Bye.